Hi, everybody. It's Bruce Singer. Welcome to another version of the Bruce Singer podcast. And I'm Bruce Singer. I'm the host. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Canada CFOs. And we provide senior level CFOs on a part-time basis, an interim basis. And I have a wonderful guest today, Cheryl Appleton. Cheryl is my guest. She's going to tell you a bit more about herself. She's founder of the Women in Food organization. She's president of STRAGENTIUM. Hope I got it right, Cheryl. Okay. Did I get it right? I hope so.
It's STRAGENTIUM. We know it's a mouthful.
My apologies. This is live, so we're not scripting, we're not editing. STRAGENTIUM. And there's lots of cool stuff. And she's also been a judge, a butter tart judge as well. Very passionate about advancing women in business, advancing women in food, and has over 30 years of leadership roles and building businesses within businesses in the food industry. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm very excited about this. We're going to talk about lots of stuff, particularly women in food. And welcome to the Bruce Singer podcast.
All right. Thank you very much, Bruce. What an opening.
Okay. So we'll get right into it. What is women in food? What is women in food? Yes.
Well, quite simply, Canadian Women in Food. We were founded back in 2014. Really, it was an idea that was born out of a group of women getting together, having dinner as we like to do. And around the table, there were women like me who had spent most of their career within the corporate industry. Mm-hmm. And there were some women who owned their own businesses. And we were sharing notes around the various things that we had volunteered with, had been engaged with, and, some things we found lacking in different ways. So, of course, it was brought up around the table. Well, we should start something. We should start an association. And kind of the response around the table was, yeah. And then the next person said, and we should do something in a way that really helps to support women who own their own businesses in the food and beverage space, because there really isn't anything that exists for that. And the response around the table was, yeah, and then somebody said, and Cheryl, you should run it.
Of course.
so that was my voluntold moment. Give a busy person more things to do. But truthfully, Canadian Women in Food has been my passion for the better part of the past 6 years. Post corporate career environment, back in 2018, I started up my own consulting business, which is STRAGENTIUM. It's a mouthful because it's a combination of 3 different words that make up the word STRAGENTIUM: strategy, genesis, and titanium. Because in order to be an entrepreneur, as you know, Bruce, you've got to be made of stronger stuff. And that's just the reality for how it is that I operate my own business at STRAGENTIUM and the work that I do on behalf of Canadian Women in Food. We were talking in the preamble, Canadian Women in Food, we are not a nonprofit. We're a social enterprise, which means we're an entity that is for profit, for good. And we're a lot like our members in the sense that we're out there hustling. So if you're following us on social media, which I know that you are, yes, you know that we are constantly talking about what our members are doing, where we're going to be next, and what it is that we're working on. So, we are really, as a national association with more than 250 members right across the country and growing each and every week, we are the place where women who crave connection and ways, opportunities to improve themselves, both personally and professionally, we are that place for them. So we do so much more for our members beyond just simple, networking, because let's face it, we've all got girlfriends, I'm sure you do too, that you can hang around with and drink wine with, and that's not what we're about.
Okay, so the ultimate purpose is to advance business. Is that the ultimate? Like, I'm just trying to not put it together. What you're all about is to advance them in business successfully. Is that the ultimate achievement?
Well, there's three main things
that
there's 3 main things that we do on behalf of our members, and it's really important to clarify around these points because we're also very clear about what we do not do. But I can tell you what we do.
Okay.
And what we do on behalf of our members, number 1, is we focus on opportunities for our members to market and promote their businesses, because oftentimes as women-owned businesses, they don't seek out opportunities to do that. Women oftentimes are challenged by talking about themselves, so we will talk about them for them. or we will find opportunities where they can feel like it's a safe environment to be visible. Because let's face it, consumer nowadays, particularly with food brands, they want to know who's behind the business. They want to know who's
Yeah.
running it.
Yeah.
They want a face to the name, and that, that sense of connection, that story is almost just as important as the product itself. So number one, we really focus on opportunities to help our members market and promote their business. Number two, what we do is we really work to create education in bite-sized pieces. Now, we love our food puns, so I'm going to let you, understand that we keep getting badder and badder. But no, seriously, we bring our
Like that.
members,
That's
education
good.
in
Yeah.
bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
And how we do that is we've got a very popular weekly program we run for our members. It's a little bit like your podcast. We call it Monday Morning Manager. It's every Monday at 9 a.m. And yes, people from Western Canada do tune in at 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. their time to be live on the session. And that's where sometimes it's just us and it's peer-led learning, or we bring on subject matter experts to really talk about, top 3 tips that entrepreneurs can then take away that week
That's
and
great.
implement in their business. We record those sessions so they're available on demand for our members at any time, which when you're, when you've got a life, where you're balancing little babies, or like me, you're a little bit older and you've got, aging parents and they can sometimes be like little kids, you want to be able to catch this stuff when you can. And as entrepreneurs, oftentimes it's a case of tell me what I need to know right now, and so that I can do it, and then I'm on to the next thing. So we bring our members education in bite-sized pieces. And the third thing I alluded to right off the top, we're not just about networking. It is about connecting our members to the people and the resources that can help make a difference for them in their businesses, in order to be able to move their businesses forward. So those are the 3 key things that we do. There's so much more than that. We can get into a lot of different layers, but those are the 3 key things that we do for our members, and they love us for that.
Interesting, and but at the end of the day, the goal is to create a thriving, profitable business, because a lot of them, they're entrepreneurs. They're founders too. They started, they're alone, and alone can be a rough ride.
Yeah,
Need
it
that
can be.
peer to peer. Let's call it peer to peer encouragement sometimes. And I'm sure that does take place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a little bit of that, but there's also a good filtering system in place, because as women, because they do oftentimes have so many outside responsibilities for
Yep.
family and otherwise, is the one thing that women don't oftentimes have a lot of is time or money. So when they do need expert assistance in their business, and everybody does from time to time, no matter what it might be, that our members provide a really good space to share knowledge, which is to say, oh, you're looking for somebody to do ABC 1, 2, 3. This is a relationship that has worked for me, right? Or we as an organization have worked with somebody that we know has the right skill set and the right value set, in order to be able to work well with our members based on the feedback of working with them for many, many years. So it makes it very easy for our members to be able to look internally and ask questions to say, can I get some help with this? Has anyone ever had any experience with non-disclosure agreements? Who do I need to talk to about US exporting? And so we can connect them to the resources that we know are good resources, tried and true, tested, that sort of thing, so that they can take advantage of them right away and make those changes within their business. The other side of the coin is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't always make them drink. We
Yeah,
could
you
bring
can.
something that is
Yeah,
the
you can.
best thing since sliced bread, and it still takes, people time to wrap their heads around something, to say, okay, this is for me. I'm going to give this a try, and then you go.
Of course. Do they ever get involved in sharing, like, for example, at the end of the day, you got to make sales.
Hmm.
I'm just curious, right? And some people could have broken. I'm just giving you an example. A food entrepreneur could have broken into Loblaws one day. Do they ever get into that cross referral? Like,
They
I never, because that could be a big. I mean, you look at the power of a collective. You know. That could be
Yeah.
a huge thing for your members. I would think,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
They do. They share those
Yeah.
opportunities, and they're I mean, obviously, to roll out an opportunity to 250 members at one time is
Yeah,
kind of challenging.
of course, yeah.
That's our responsibility, but
Got it.
oftentimes, yes, there is a healthy amount of cross-pollination that takes
Yeah.
place amongst the brands. And so you do see a lot of that. You see some, creative co-marketing campaigns, where there are relationships in common. They may be working with certain distributors. When the Ontario Made program launched in Ontario in its early days during the pandemic, we were one of the first organizations to heavily, heavily encourage our members to participate in that game. We saw lots of opportunities, the free labeling, the branding, the product positioning and placement, and we're so glad that we did because so many member brands benefited as a result of that. I mean, you would get the emails from Ontario Made if you had signed up for the newsletter, and you would
I
see
did
that it
see,
was like
yeah.
overwhelmingly pollinated
Oh, it was
with a lot
great.
of women-owned brands. And, we're sitting here on the other end going, yes,
So
keep going.
that's wonderful. Let's talk about another thing that we're going to bring up is one of the things we want to talk about is the financing and or investing. You know, that how does that's a challenge. That's just share your experience and what is that? How does it impact your group?
I'm glad you brought that up, and for your audience of CFOs and financial whiz peoples, is that there's oftentimes a misunderstanding in terms of how it is that women approach business. Are women naturally risk averse? And in some senses, it all depends upon what your setup is, right? So if you've got mortgage to pay for and you've got children to put through college and you have a spouse that may be in between jobs, anybody's going to be risk averse, right?
Of course.
So that's not just something that's exclusive to women, but women typically tend to look for long-term sustainable business opportunities. They're not short-term big numbers, and they generally don't lie about it either. They don't say, oh, this is going to get me 5 million in 3 years. They're usually very specific. And so with that comes along with it sometimes a view by investors that women are, they're only incrementally or making micro advancements in their businesses, when what we're looking for is a short-term return on our investment. Well,
Mhm.
quite frankly, I'd love to have a business that gives me a perpetual return of about 8, 9, 10% over the course of a 25-year time period versus, 15 or 20% that I might get for 3 years. Like, who cares, right?
Mhm.
So there's a bigger opportunity looking at a sustainable business that has got all the building blocks in place, but it's not as sexy sometimes with investors. The other thing too is oftentimes with women, whether it's from the banking side of thing or from the investing side of thing, is that it's about approaching women in the place that they're at and assisting them with the language, the financial language, if they don't currently have the background or the knowledge to speak in the same way. Okay. Because if women feel like you're talking down to them, or if they feel that somehow you're, judging them in a particular through
Mhm.
a particular lens, like the classic example I like to say, which is that, you take your business idea to a banker, and of course you've got, the most beautiful cupcake business in the world, and they kind of look at you like, yeah, cupcakes, eh? Well, you're crushed, right? You're
Yeah.
crushed. You may
Yeah.
have, and there's a lot of profitability that comes with banking. Let me tell you, you may have the best business idea, but that one moment of attitude that is shared with you that comes across the face of the banker to you as
Yeah.
the entrepreneur, and you're crushed, and you're not going to let them know it, because oftentimes when women don't like something or they don't enjoy an experience, they don't tell you. Okay. But when you push them, what they will say is they'll say something very generic like, well, it wasn't for me. But inside, you've crossed a line, which is to say, I will never do that again, right? And oftentimes people don't understand that you have to ensure that you're checking in along the way, that that the other party on the other side of the table, that they're comfortable with what you're talking about, that you have their engagement, that you are building their trust, and that you're utilizing language in a way that's comfortable for them, that they can buy into. Otherwise, they're just going to say, you know what, I don't need this business opportunity, and I would rather keep my sanity than deal with somebody that is approaching my business in this way, because they don't understand. This is my baby. Don't
Interesting.
nobody, and nobody likes to have their baby be called ugly.
But the reality is, when you're in business, rejection is part of the game.
It is.
You can't get around it. There's just
That's right.
Yeah.
But you know what? But women, for women, it's different. It's it's not like it's not like going to a dance, right? And it's high school, and you're asking every girl in the room to see if she'll dance with you because this is your first time at the dance. For women choose to say, well, I don't want to be at the dance at all because I don't have to be, right? So the element of rejection,
I got it.
it's gendered. It's totally gendered, and it's experiencing that throughout your life, and then you're operating the most important thing since you've had, which is that metaphorical birth of the child. There it is. It's your business. It's your baby, and somebody is there basically saying, well, bottom line, and please don't use that wording. Bottom line, this is what you need to do. They'll just go,
it's a common,
as a finance person,
finance term. Yeah.
Common finance person. Yeah, I studied a lot of corporate finance, right?
Yeah, well, I'm a CPA by trade. The bottom, yeah.
The bottom line is,
yeah, I get it.
And they'll just go, okay, well, thank you very much, but this is not for me.
So you have this challenge in investing. So how do you? I guess I see the challenge. So how do you and your organization? How do you move the bar forward? Like how do you?
What you got to do is you got to figure out the common language, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand a little bit about, and I'm going to call out here my good friend Brooke Gordon from BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada. Yeah. And Brooke describes it because she works with a lot of entrepreneurs and she sits on a number of different boards, and she likes to call it, you have to really, it comes back to the business strategy, and you have to pull out that beautiful tapestry of your business plan that's in your mind, and you got to put pen to paper and put that strategy down. So once you have put that strategy down, then as a finance person, you then have something that's that third piece, that entity, that strategy, the business plan that's there, that you can then start to work on. And then you start to have conversations around, what do you want your money to do? Where do you want your money to go? And a good business person, on the finance side, will always be able to figure out, depending, money that sits, that's dead, it's not doing anything, right? You want money always to be in motion. And so when you figure out what the money is going to do, and you can agree upon that together, that's when you can see where the opportunity is. Is it incremental, or is it going to get you to the next place where you can then take the bigger leap and get the higher return? And that's all on you. But it's really about, mapping out the plan, creating the strategy, and ensuring that you're both, or that you are utilizing language that your client will understand and be comfortable with and feel safe in that environment, and that you can agree upon what the money will do.
So when they walk into we call it the investors meeting or the bank meeting, it's all investors, it's all borrowing, it's all the same thing. Then they're really better equipped. Is that to have the type of conversation that's going to get them hopefully a win when it's all said and done. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And a lot of that is, looking at, what sort of is the expectation for investment. You're going to go for an investor and you're going to ask them for $1 million. And, I've met up with brands who said, the funny thing about working with investors is it all sounds well and good on paper until the money is in the bank.
Yeah.
because even 10 minutes before the money is in the bank, the investing entity, they pull all kinds of tricks on you at the very last minute. They ask you for all sorts of personal guarantees,
Yeah.
and I don't want to put my house on the line. And that sort of stuff, I gotta tell you, it's BS, you know?
It is be-
And
yeah,
it, you
it
know,
is.
and
It is.
it just creates another level of stress. And I've sat in a lot of boardrooms and a lot of negotiations, and I've sat in with, you know, some very senior people from the US who go into meetings, and before they go into the meetings, they turn to me and they say, watch what I'm going to do to this guy.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, watch
Because
what I'm going to do
yeah,
to
oh
this
yeah.
guy.
Because
Right?
they know so much more about the playing field than the person on the other side, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll just give a little suggestion if that's okay. Sometimes it takes a ninja to fight a ninja. I'm using that example when I was a kid, you know,
Yeah.
but sometimes you need that person on your team on the other side because you're going to get what's the word, cross hit with a crossbow, and it's going to come at you like this, and then it's just something, and you're probably
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah,
You
yeah,
need to pick a fighter who's on your team to go up
correct,
against the,
correct, correct,
the other team's
and
fighter, because yeah.
to take the emotion out of it, because sometimes when it is your baby, there is an emotion. People say, well, don't be emotional, but it is emotional. It is your baby. You work your butt off, you probably bootstrapped the business for probably who knows how long, at least a couple of years. You bootstrapped it, and then you become emotionally involved, emotionally
That's
attached.
right. And
Anyway,
nobody likes to be insulted. But there are
nobody likes to
things
be
that
insulted. Yeah,
brands can learn about how they build their business, to get the right metrics in place that will help them when they're around them in the investment table. So I'm
right.
glad you called that out, Bruce, which is a
Yeah,
little bit about the pre-preparation. And it's a series that
exactly.
we're working on at Canadian Women of Food, which is to understand, there are many brands that start up, and I read this recently, and it's kind of insulting, but there's about 90% of businesses that are out there, about 1.6 million businesses in Canada that are small, medium enterprises,
Yep.
that the Canadian government calls lifestyle businesses. And I use air quotes on that.
Yeah, I've heard that
And
lifestyle. Yeah. Yeah.
I laugh at that, and I say,
What does it mean? Yeah.
that's insulting, because like, whose lifestyle? Because my idea of lifestyle is what my dad did for 30 years post retirement, which was to golf every day in Lindsay, after he retired from IBM. That's a lifestyle. Okay.
Yeah.
But operating my own business, it's and you sometimes you feel a little bit hand about. It's like, this is not a lifestyle. Like this,
No, listen. No,
you're
you're right.
working it.
If you
So
need your business to is that your if that's your core source of living, or you're trying to scale a business, it's hard work,
yeah.
and until you get to a point, of course.
Well,
Maybe,
that's right. And
maybe,
it's
maybe.
about creating that
Yeah,
sustainable business model, that repeatable business model,
exactly.
that allows you to also extract the joy out of it, to, deliver something of value, not only just for you personally, but for your family and for your community and for the country as a whole. I mean, those are ideal. And women start businesses in the food industry oftentimes because they see opportunities. They have great vision to see
They do.
this is what's missing from the marketplace. And so they go the extra mile to create something. But it's kind of insulting that the Canadian government, only considers that, if you are a business of this particular size, anything under that is a lifestyle business. There
Yeah.
was a recent digital grant that was made available from the federal government, but you had to have at least $500,000 in revenue in order to be eligible for that. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of successful businesses that are out there that are below that revenue line, and don't have and could really benefit from a grant like that. So
It's
so
true.
part
It's
of it
true.
is the
Or how do you get to
conversation.
500? How do you get to 500,000?
Well,
There's that first step. You're 100% right.
right? You
100%.
can get there. You can get there. And we know lots of businesses, lots of
Yeah.
food businesses that are women owned, that are doing more than $1 million in annual revenue, very successful businesses, and they don't even have a footprint in any of the major retailers, not Loblaws, not Sobeys, not Metro, not Walmart, not Costco. And all of those guys collectively represent about 77% of the retail grocery market in Canada. And you
Yeah.
can still build $1 million business by not being part of any of them. And that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. So when I say that women can stand back and they can say, sorry, this is not for me, they have that ability to do that. So, for investors, it's kind of a case of, there are a lot of gems that are hiding out underneath that quilt, and you can find them by approaching the brands in the right way and then figuring out what do you want the money to do, and then you can grow from there. What we've learned at Canadian Women in Food just recently, Bruce, and then I'll stop talking so you can talk.
I got a question to ask. Yeah.
Okay, is that what we do for our members, how we bring them education, how we connect them, how we help to support them, is that it's unique for the Canadian landscape. There isn't another organization in the country that's doing what we do. And what we've learned very recently is that there isn't any other entity like it that's in the United States and perhaps even around the world. And
amazing.
So what's interesting about that is that it means that from Canada, brands in Canada have the ability, have the unique opportunity to really lead this for women globally around the world. And that's very exciting.
It is very exciting because that's part of the change that's needed to take place when you look at this whole diversity, equity, inclusion, equity, entrepreneurship. That is a huge initiative. So one thing, I'm curious, do you actually facilitate like potential investors coming and where your members can make pitches? Is that part of your process where some of your members can make pitches, or they're pretty much on their own? I'm just curious to
Currently, they're on their own, but it's something that we'd love to be able to develop, because we think that the playing field, there still continues to be great investment opportunities within the food industry. And, obviously, globally, we're going to be challenged over the course of the next, 30 years to decarbonize our environment. So food that is produced in Canada is really going to have an impact around the world. Obviously, the Prime Minister just today struck a deal with Germany around metals related to renewable battery systems. So that Canada in the food industry can lead the way globally as well. So there's tremendous investment opportunity. There's really good operators that are out there that we know that are part of our membership, who are looking for investors. But what they need is they need the investor who can approach them in the right way, who's prepared to have more of a consultative model, let's say, more around education and development, and is willing to, on their side, take some risks on women-owned businesses who really do know what they're doing.
So before we wrap up, we'll wrap up shortly. I just want to ask you another question. Two things. If someone a potential investor let's say a potential investor, we post this to Spotify and they get inspired by this thing, which is great. Who do they reach out to? Let's say I'm interested in learning more and I want to tap into your network and see maybe there's a diamond in the rough. Because
all right.
Who do they reach out to you on LinkedIn? Is that one of the
That's one way you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me through our website. So we are all one word, CanadianWomeninFood.ca, Canada. And you can sign up there and message us through the website. You can see what else we're doing. Since we know your audience, is probably not thinking about the fall holiday season, which is a perfect time for gifting, we should mention through our shop on the website, we have a great box program, which is called Gifts of Goodness. We've got some wonderful collections of products, all women-owned businesses. Every box tells a story, and 10% goes towards building community. And we've got some fun boxes on there, like Beer, Bath, and Beyond. You might like that, Bruce.
That's interesting. Beer, Bath, and Beyond. Yeah, cool. Very cool. So what I'm going to do is when I post the podcast, I'll attach links. I'll say forward to you. I'll attach a link to your email address, and so they see it right on the podcast, and they can just click, and hopefully we can help. We can help. And and for new members too, if they want to join your group, they just reach out to you. And I think what you're doing is wonderful. It's a great initiative, and I think the potential is enormous. And the more and more I read, the future of food is women. It is. I've read that, and there's so much going on, so much discussion. And anyways, at the end of the day, it's going to happen. And it's just look, I think what you're doing is awesome and a great initiative. And I wish you good luck, and good luck to all your entrepreneurs and founders. And I wish you good. Have a
Very
wonderful have a wonderful day.
Okay, thanks very much, Bruce. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
the opportunity.
Why do you want to be part of Canadian Women in Food? Because it's an opportunity for you to be part of a bigger journey. It's an opportunity for you to meet some great people. You would miss out on some wonderful contacts along the way and incredible business connections that can help you. I've never met a woman in food who wasn't super busy, balancing big jobs, sometimes with little babies. And now some of us have reached the age where we have to take care of our parents too. All of that and run a business. And it's really hard to do that without a support network. So ask yourself, when are you going to stop and breathe and take the time, instead of just working in your business, get the help you need to help you work on your business? I'm Cheryl. I'm the founder of Canadian Women in Food, and for the last 30 years, I have worked in a variety of positions in food, manufacturing, food service, corporate office, front lines, you name it, I've done it. And I'm not unlike a lot of our members who have reinvented themselves along the way. It's absolutely about celebrating women, and it's so important that we do that. Because when we miss that, we're not stopping and taking the time to really recognize what it is that we've managed to achieve here, which is this amazing thing. It's part community, part connection, part business building, networking. It's all of that stuff. And we have really great food at our events, and that's so important. We want you to join. We want you to come along with us for the ride, be part of the journey. We want to get to know you. We want to get to know your business. We want to get to know all of what you are about, because it's so much better when we build this thing together.